Have you ever carried a guilt so big it changed you? Not a small slip, a late apology, a white lie, but something massive, something that stains. A choice that echoes in the quiet, that stares back from the mirror, that whispers your name when the world goes still. It's a cage, unseen, unfelt by others, but real as iron to you. You ask, how do I move on? How do I live with this? The answer isn't simple, it never is, but it's there. Dostoevsky found it, and he's about to show you. He wasn't some polished philosopher in an ivory tower. Fyodor Dostoevsky was a man of flesh and fracture, a gambler who lost everything, a prisoner who faced the firing squad, a soul who knew darkness not as a concept, but as a companion. His life was a mess. Debts, exile, nights where the bottle was his only friend. And yet, from that mess, he pulled something raw and real. His stories, his cries, aren't about heroes in capes. They're about men like us, broken by their own hands, wrestling with what they've done. He didn't just write about guilt. He lived it, breathed it, let it carve him. What makes him different? He didn't stop at the edge. Dostoevsky stared into that pit, the guilt that gnaws, the shame that chokes, and didn't flinch. He saw what it does. It creeps in after the act, when the noise fades and you're left alone. It's not loud. It's quiet, heavy, a shadow that grows. You justify it at first. I had no choice. They deserved it. But then the excuses crack, and there you are, naked with the truth. It's a weight, a chain you forged yourself, and it feels like forever. But here's where he turns it. Guilt isn't just a dead end, it's a mirror. That mirror hurts. It shows you the worst of you, unfiltered. A thief, a liar, a betrayer. Whatever you became in that moment. But Dostoevsky says, keep looking. Because in that pain, there's a pulse. You're still here, still alive, still capable of feeling it. And if you feel, you can move. Not away, not to erase it, but through it. Guilt doesn't have to be your jailer. It can be your teacher. It burns. God, it burns. But in that fire, something stirs. Something that says, you fell. Now what? This isn't about easy outs. Dostoevsky doesn't deal in fairy tales. There's no snap of the fingers, no magic wand to make it vanish. What he gives you is harder, truer. Guilt traps you, yes, but it also cracks you open. And through that crack, light seeps. Not the soft kind, not forgiveness handed on a platter, but a light you fight for, step by step. It's a path, rough, uneven, lined with thorns, but it leads somewhere, to growth, to something more. If you've ever felt crushed by what you've done, if you've thought your mistake is all you'll ever be, this is for you. This isn't a quick fix or a feel-good pep talk. It's a journey. One Dostoevsky took, one he mapped in blood and ink. We're going deeper, into how guilt sinks you, how it holds you, and how, against all odds, it can lift you. You're not alone in this. He carried it. I felt its weight, and you're feeling it now. Stay, because what comes next might just change how you see that burden, how you carry it, how you rise. So here you are, carrying it, that guilt. It's not a loud thing, not at first. It doesn't burst in with horns or shouts. It's quieter, sneaky. It slips into the cracks of your day, when you're pouring coffee, walking the dog, staring at a screen. And then, all at once, it's there. Solid, heavy, like a stone you didn't know you'd picked up. Maybe it started small, a choice you made, a line you crossed. But it grew. It always grows. Because this isn't about forgetting a birthday or snapping at a friend. This is bigger, darker. This is the kind of guilt that comes when you've done something you can't take back. Something bad. Really bad. What does that feel like? You know it, don't you? It's a knot in your gut that won't untie. A voice that won't shut up, replaying it over and over. The moment you said it. The second you did it. The look in their eyes. Or worse, the silence after. It's not just regret. Regret is soft, fleeting. This is sharper, deeper. It's a stain, a mark that says, this is who you are now. And the worst part? You believe it. You start to think, I'm this, I'm the mistake. There's no going back. That's what guilt does. It doesn't just sit there. It digs in, it takes root. Dostoevsky got that. He didn't write about guilt as some abstract idea. He lived it, dissected it. Picture him. A man in his 20s, wild-eyed, chained, standing in a snowy square waiting for the rifles to fire. He'd been reckless, joined the wrong crowd, said the wrong things, and there he was, facing death for it. The guns didn't go off. Mercy came instead. But that moment stayed. He carried it. Through prison, through exile, through every page he scratched out. Guilt wasn't a stranger to him. It was a roommate. And he saw what it does to us. How it twists. How it traps. Here's how it works. You do something. Something terrible. Maybe you hurt someone. Maybe worse. At first you fight it off. You tell yourself, I had to. They pushed me. The world's a mess anyway. You build a wall of reasons, tall, thick, because facing it feels like drowning. But then, alone, in the quiet, it hits. The wall cracks. You see it. The blood on your hands, the trust you broke, the life you bent. And that's when guilt moves in. It's not a visitor, it's a tenant. It sets up shop in your head, your chest, your bones. You can't sleep. It's there. You can't laugh. It's watching. It's a judge, a jury, a sentence you pronounce on yourself. Why does it stick so hard? Because it's personal. It's not about what they think, your boss, your friends, the law. It's about you, what you think of you. Dostoevsky knew that. It's why his characters don't run from courts or crowds. They run from themselves. Take Raskolnikov. Killed a woman. Thought he could justify it. Thought he was above it. He wasn't. The guilt ate him, step by step, until he couldn't hide. That's the trap. You can dodge the world, but not the mirror. It shows you, raw, ugly, and you can't look away. But here's where Dostoevsky flips it, where he stops being just a storyteller and becomes a guide. He says, guilt isn't the end. It feels like it. God, it feels like it, but it's not. It's a signal, a brutal, honest signal. It tells you, you crossed a line, you broke something, someone, yourself. It's not there to crush you forever. Though it tries, it's there to wake you up, to make you see. Because if you're still feeling it, if that weight still cuts, you're not dead inside. You're alive. Messy, flawed, but alive. And that's the crack where something else gets in. What's that something? Not erasure. Guilt doesn't vanish. Not forgiveness from on high. Dostoevsky wasn't big on handouts. It's awareness. A cold, clear look at what you've done. And with it, a question. Now what? That's the shift. Guilt locks you in the past, replays the fall. But it also hands you a key. You did this. Yes. You feel this. Yes. So what do you do with it? That's where the prison starts to crack. Not because the bars melt, but because you see a door. He learned this the hard way. Years in Siberia, sleeping on planks, staring at gray walls. He could have rotted there, let the guilt win. He didn't. He watched, listened, felt. He saw men worse off, men who'd done worse, and still found something. Laughter, a shared crust, a spark. Guilt didn't leave him. It stayed. But it changed. It stopped being just a whip and became a prod, a push to look harder, dig deeper. He came out not clean, not saintly, but different, stronger. You felt that push, haven't you? That moment when the guilt isn't just heavy, it's loud. It's not content to sit. It wants you to move. But where? How? That's the question Dostoevsky wrestled with. Not in theories, but in life. And he found an answer. Not a sermon, not a rule book, but a story. A man like you, like me, sunk in his own darkness, drowning in what he'd done, until something broke through. Not big, not loud, but real. That's what's coming next. A tale of guilt so thick it blinds, and the slow, hard light that follows. Stay with it, because this is where the path begins.
I was a man lost, adrift in a sea of my own making. The streets were cold that night, the wind sharp against my face, but colder still was the weight inside me. I had done it, crossed a line no man should cross. My hands shook, not from the chill, but from the deed. A life taken, a choice made, and with it a part of me buried under the rubble of my own pride. I thought I could rise above them all, their petty rules, their hollow lives. I was wrong. The days after were a fog, thick, gray, suffocating. I walked among men, but I was no longer one of them. Their voices buzzed, laughter, chatter, the clink of coins, but I heard only silence, a silence that screamed. Guilt clung to me like damp cloth, every step heavier, every breath a labor. I'd meant to prove something, to myself, to the world. But all I proved was my own fall. I was free. Yes, free to drown in what I'd done. Sleep fled me. In its place came dreams, her face, her eyes, wide with fear. Then still, I'd wake, gasping, the room spinning, my heart a hammer against my ribs. What had I gained? Nothing, less than nothing. A hole where my soul once sat. I thought myself a giant, a breaker of chains. Now I saw the truth. I was small, frail, a man undone by his own hands. The abyss wasn't out there, it was me. I hid, from them, from her memory, from the light. The city pressed in, its lights too bright, its shadows too deep. I took to corners, to alleys, to a room with cracked walls and a single chair. There I sat, hours, days, staring at nothing, waiting for something. Punishment, death. I deserved both, but neither came. Only the quiet, and in it a whisper I couldn't shake. Was this all? Was I done? One night rain battered the window, a steady, unforgiving beat. I watched it fall, each drop a mirror to my own descent. And then, her voice. Not hers, not really, but a child's. A girl, small, shivering, begging bread at my door. I turned her away, snarled. shut her out. But her eyes stayed clear, piercing, alive. They cut through me sharper than any blade. Why her? Why now? I didn't know, only that she wouldn't leave my mind. I rose, stiff, unsteady, and went after her. The rain soaked me, the streets blurred, but I found her, curled under a rag, trembling. I had nothing, no coin, no warmth, but I gave her my coat. She looked up, not with thanks, but with something else. Trust, maybe, or just a question. "Why?" she said, soft as the rain. I had no answer, only a crack, deep inside, widening. I walked away, but the crack stayed, days turned. Slow, heavy, but different. That crack let something in, light, air, a ache I couldn't name. I hated it, fought it, wanted the dark back, but it grew. I saw her again, fed her, spoke to her, watched her smile. Each time the weight shifted, not gone but lighter. I didn't deserve this, didn't want it, but it came anyway. A hand, small and cold, pulling me from the mire I'd made. The city changed, or I did. The noise softened, the faces sharpened. I saw them, really saw them, not as shadows to scorn, but as souls, frail like me. I'd thought myself apart, above, below, but no. I was them, broken, searching, alive. The deed stayed, its mark eternal. But it wasn't all I was. I could be more, couldn't I? Yes, I could. I worked, hands raw, back bent, not for gold, but for breath. Each task a brick, building something, not a wall, but a bridge. From me to them, from then to now. I spoke, halting, clumsy, to a priest, to a stranger, to the air. Words spilled, my sin, my shame, and with them a weight fell. Not all, never all, but enough to stand straighter. Love crept in, not loud, not grand, but real. That girl, Sonia, she said, became my mirror, my tether. She didn't judge, didn't absolve, just stayed. I gave her bread. She gave me hope. Not the soft kind, but the hard kind, forged in fire. I thought love was lost to me, buried with her, but no, it lived. Small, stubborn, alive in her eyes. Guilt lingered, will always linger, but it's not my master now. I carry it, let it teach me, each sting a reminder. I fell, I rose. I walked the streets, head up, not down. See the dawn, not just the dark. The abyss yawned. I stepped back, not whole, not clean, but here. I chose, then and now. And this choice saves me. Time moves, I move with it. The past cuts, the future waits. I hold this day. I've learned. You don't erase the fall, you build from it. Each act, small, shaky, lifts you. I feed her, I mend what I can, I breathe. Not for heaven, not for them, but for me, for her, for this fragile now. Redemption isn't a gift, it's a labor. I sweat for it, stumble, rise, sweat again. The priest spoke of grace. I felt it not from above, but from within. I'd killed, yes, but I live now, yes. The mark stays. I wear it not as chains, but as proof. I'm human, frail, strong. I choose every day to be more. The city hums. I hum too. Lights flicker, voices rise. I'm part of it, not a part. I see her, Sonia. Laugh, and I laugh. Quiet, real. The abyss looms, always will. But I've found a ledge, a hand to hold, a reason. I fell, deep, dark, but I climbed, not alone, not anymore. So I live, not loud, not grand, but true. The weight stays, I bear it, lighter each dawn. I've seen the pit, lived it, and stepped out. Not clean, not whole, but alive. You can too. Fall, yes, but rise. Act, yes, however small. The dark whispers, I whisper back. I am here, I am enough, I am redeemed. And now, this breath, this step, I stand. The city glows, soft, sharp, I glow too. I faced my deed, my soul, my fight, and won. Not the war, but the day. The abyss waits, I nod, not afraid. I've built something, shaky, real from its edge. Sonia smiles. I smile. Life goes on. This is my redemption. Mine, yours, ours.
So there it is. A man lost, sunk in his own dark, pulled back by a thread. A coat, a smile, a choice. That's Dostoevsky's gift. Not a neat bow, not a sermon, but a map. Guilt hit him hard, hit me hard. And it's hitting you too, isn't it? That weight, it's real, it's yours. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to bury you. It didn't bury him. It doesn't have to bury us. What do you do with it? That's where this ends, and where you begin. Look at what happened. He fell, deep and ugly. A life taken, a soul cracked. He could have stayed there, let the abyss win. Most would. You felt that pull, haven't you? To just sit in it. Let it define you. I did this. I'm this. But he didn't. He moved. Stumbled, sure, but moved. Gave a coat when he had nothing. Fed a girl when he was starving inside. Small acts. Not grand, not loud. But they shifted something. That's the key. Guilt doesn't lift on its own. You lift it. One shaky step at a time. Dostoevsky learned this in the muck. Years in Siberia, chains on his wrists, frost in his lungs. He could have rotted, plenty did. But he watched, felt, acted. Saw men share bread in a hellhole and thought, there's more. Guilt stayed, never left, but it changed. It stopped being a noose and became a spur, pushing him to write, to live, to be more than his worst day. That's what it can do for you. Push, not just punish. It's not about erasing the stain. It's about building with it. What does that mean? Building. It's not big. Don't picture monuments. It's the coat you give when you're cold yourself. The truth you tell when it burns to say it. The hand you offer when yours still shakes. That man, me, him, didn't wipe the blood off his hands. He used them anyway. Worked, spoke, loved. Not for applause, not for heaven, but for breath, for now. Each move made the load lighter, not gone, but bearable. That's redemption. Not a gift dropped from the sky, but a house you build brick by brick from the rubble of your fall. You're not clean after. Don't expect that. The mark stays, should stay. It's proof you're human, frail, yes, but alive. Dostoevsky carried his prison, exile, that snowy square, and wore it. Not as shame, but as strength. You can too. That thing you did, the big bad thing, it's there, etched. But it's not all you are. You feel it. That sting, that cut, and it means you're still in the game. Dead men don't feel guilt. You do. So you're not dead. You're messy, scarred, but here. And that's enough to start. How? Start small. Dostoevsky did. A coat, a crumb, a word. It's not the size, it's the doing. Act, however your hands tremble. Speak, however your voice cracks. Look at what you broke, yourself, someone else, and mend one piece. Not for them, not for some cosmic score, but for you. Because every step turns that weight into something else. Something you can carry, not something that crushes. Sonia didn't save him. He saved himself, with her hand in his. You don't need a Sonya, just a spark, a push, a move. You've got that, right now, in that guilt you feel. This isn't the end, it's the edge. The abyss is there, always will be, but you've got a ledge. He found it, clawed his way up, and you can too. Fall, yes you did, but rise, yes you can. The dark whispers, you whisper back, I'm here. Not loud, not grand, but true. That's what he left us. Not a fix, but a fight. A fight you're already in, because you're listening, feeling, thinking. Take it, one day, one act, and watch it grow. So stand, breathe, move. The city hums, you hum too. The weight's still there, lighter each dawn. You've seen the pit, lived it, stepped out. Not whole, not pure, but alive. That's redemption, not a prize, but a path. Dostoevsky walked it, showed it, and now it's yours. You're not done, not defined, not defeated. You're here, enough, redeemed in the mess of it all. The abyss waits. You nod, not afraid. Life goes on. Yours does too. Start now, because this day, this breath, it's yours to claim.